Dr. Jazz.
Jump in.
Dr.
I've listened to you since the 2006 one on Fresh Sound, and kind of followed what you've been doing, and I wanted to start this talk like, what's happening on the band leading department? I love the last one, System One, and have you been preparing something new, or have got something in the can there?
Yeah. I'm preparing for trio recording, which is something I've always wanted to do. Haven't gotten around to. It's funny. I had the last one was a quartet, and the one before was a quintet. So I'm kind of scaling down a little bit every record. So yeah, that's the plan, to do a trio recording. And probably with fresh sound again. So we're just talking about finding a date and everything and all that. But I have the music together, and we've played a bunch, and yeah,
Who will you do it with?
that's something I want to do. So the trio I've been playing with is Jochen Rückert, who's another German drummer. He's been in New York for a long time, and Rick Rosato, a great bass player. So we used to play regularly at this place called Bar Next Door. But they don't. They stopped having music during the pandemic, which is unfortunate. But it was kind of like a great spot for a guitar trio. So we played there a lot, and I have a lot of music together, and I just kind of want to document that trio. So that's
beautiful.
That's the plan.
You mentioned Jordy and Fresh Sound. How did your connection with Jordy actually begin? I mean, I know that one, the first one, which I mentioned, like Across the River from 2006, and you kind of stuck with Fresh Sound. Like, how did your story with Jordy start?
Yeah, good question. That was so long ago, 20 years. Wow. So I used to play a lot with this great Spanish tenor player, Javier Vercher.
Oh, really?
He has moved back to Spain. Yeah. He moved back to Spain a while ago, but we used to play a lot around that time. And he introduced me to Jordy, and we had done a little recording here, kind of like not a very great recording, but like a little demo recording, and Javier sent it to Jordy, and Jordy was going to put out that recording, but I wasn't super happy with the recording, so we did Across the River. But that's through Javier, great sax player. We used to do a lot of duo sessions. He's really into duo with drums. So we would switch off on drums. He would play drums, and we would play for hours, and I would play drums, and he would play, and it was just a great time. It was early 2000s, mid 2000s. And he's actually he's on that record too, on some tunes, and on some other tunes it's Donny McCaslin. So and then I just stuck with Fresh Sound. It's I love it. I love the label, and it's always it's always hard to put out stuff, whether you do it yourself or you have a label. I mean, nobody's really making any money. But he loves the music, and he knows what's going on. He used to come to New York quite a bit, Jordy, but not so much anymore now. But I'm glad it's still going. He's still doing it. It's it's been 30 years or so now or more.
Yeah, the roster, it's amazing. I mean, everyone did their first records there, from Brett Meldo to Kurt to, Chris Cheek, and the list goes on. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's actually making some money from some recordings, or he does a lot of reissues
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah,
I think he's kind of he's got his little niche, and
yeah,
it's like he has his people that still buy CDs, and once in a while you find one in Japan too. This is kind of random with the distribution, but I've found some stuff when I was in Japan. I randomly came across some fresh sound stuff in Europe too, and I think those are more his markets than more than the US, because it's yeah. I mean,
yeah,
people don't really buy CDs here anymore.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
true.
vinyl is coming again, so that's another thing I'm hoping to do at some point. Do a analog recording and put it out on vinyl. That's something people like Lage Lund,
Yeah.
he just did that. There's a small vinyl label here actually close by. They put out a all analog recording by Lage, and Jerome Sabag just started his own
Oh,
all
really?
analog label.
Okay.
So it's a thing, it's yeah. He just started. He does all analog recordings, and that's something I've gotten into fairly recently, like vinyl and all that stuff. It's just a great way to get away from the streaming, where you get everything, but you don't know who's playing on the record. You don't get
Exactly.
any
Yeah.
information, and you switch around, you click around, and you never really listen to a whole album. So it's been really great for me to just go back and really listen to music again, because for a while I wasn't really enjoying listening to music because it was so random, and I didn't know who was playing and where it was recorded, and who was the engineer, and yeah, it's just I'm really into it now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we belong to the same generation, which kind of still listen to CDs, I guess, or cassettes, maybe even you. I mean, I did also in the beginning, but uh, who was it for you? Like the main trigger that you said, like, shit, I want to do jazz. Do you remember? Like, you're from Germany, and Germany now, it's like I've been playing in Germany for 20 years, and the scene is amazing. There's so many clubs, but already back in the 90s, a lot was happening. How did you enter the jazz world, actually? I mean, what's the story there?
Right. So I was studying classical guitar. I was taking classical guitar lessons pretty seriously in Germany. So my parents listened to mostly classical music, maybe some the occasional like Duke Ellington, but it was
Mm,
mostly Bach, etc., and you know uh, church music. So I was taking classical guitar lessons, and then my teacher gave me a tape, um, and there was, I mean, it's definitely some Schofield. It was a mixtape. It was
mm,
mixed. It was not labeled. It didn't say what was on it. It was like, here's some jazz, or it wasn't really jazz. It was like fusion, and some Kevin Eubanks, and I
mm.
really like that Kevin Eubanks. I remember it blew me away, and I don't listen to that much Kevin Eubanks anymore, but it was some music from his recording called Opening Night,
Hmm.
and it was just like really, just really great harmonically, and there's great technique and all that stuff. So that really, and Schofield, of course, there was some other stuff on there, like it was really like stuff that I don't listen to that much today anymore, like Lee Ritenour and
Yeah. But yeah, it's a
Larry
nice introduction.
Coryell. It's
Yeah,
guitar fusion.
yeah,
So he gave me that tape, and I couldn't. I was like, wow, this is the music I've been hearing in my head, and I didn't know what it was, and the harmonies mostly is what attracted me,
Mm.
kind of the shifting harmony, non-functional harmony. And I just listened a lot to that tape and didn't find out until later what actually was on it. At the time, I was listening to prog rock and Yes and Zappa maybe a little bit, and this was like in my teens, maybe 15, 16,
Mm.
17, and yeah, then Schofield, Metheny,
Yeah.
um, and then yeah, like my early 20s, I got really more into straight ahead jazz and really went through a phase like so many musicians where they just like became these jazz nerds and jazz snobs and listened to, basically I caught up on everything, Miles and Monk and all that stuff. But it was really that tape of that teacher that I had, and he wanted to prepare me for classical guitar auditions for college. And
Mm.
I kind of like last minute, I thought about it and didn't really see myself as a classical musician as a career. But then I heard this tape, and then it's like, yeah, this is what I want to do, and wasn't really thinking about making a living with it, but that tape kind of saved me from
Interesting.
classical, becoming a classical musician.
Mm.
And then I was playing, and it was not easy to find jazz musicians. I grew up in northern Bavaria, in a city called Würzburg, and there was
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
no real
There's no
big
club there,
jazz scene. It was
actually, right?
no, there's no club.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a new club called I just played there in December. It's called Z87.
Really? Okay.
Z87. It was a
Oh,
weird
cool.
name, but it's a nice club, and they're trying to make it happen. And I'm glad for the scene, because it's I know a lot of people there. My brother is a drummer. He still lives there. So, but yeah, I mean, for a long time they didn't have anything,
Yeah.
and it's kind of out of the way. It's not on any of the main routes, so it's not a lot of like big names come there. So I was not really exposed to live jazz a lot around there. Um, sometimes I went to Frankfurt. There was more of a scene, and there's the Jazz Keller,
Yeah.
which had a jam session. And I went to a school in Aschaffenburg. It's close to
Oh, yeah.
Frankfurt, and
Sure.
it was called the Future Music School. Future Music School. So some uh, uh, musician had come back from Berkeley and wanted to start something
Mm.
similar in Germany, and called it Future Music School. And I don't know if it's still there, but it was kind of like a MIT type of, like, they
Mhm.
had, it was very guitar centric, very fusion. Like they would have like guests like Scott Henderson or Robin Ford. It was that
Wow.
kind of thing.
Okay.
But it was great. I mean, for me, it was good because I was just on the verge between, like, coming from more of a rock background and getting into jazz. So that was good
Mm.
for me.
Mm. Yeah. How did you decide to move to the States or study in the States? How did that happen?
Yeah, I got a stipend or a
Mm.
scholarship. I was so I studied music in Germany undergrad, and then I got the opportunity to go abroad, and because I got this this scholarship thing, and I was thinking about going to Amsterdam because it's not so far. It has a great school.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of people there. Um, there was somehow a connection between Germany and, well, it was like one of the best schools at the time, or one of the only really serious jazz programs in the 90s, like really, for that time, big jazz program, like a couple hundred students. So I wanted to go there. The great people teaching there. Jesse van Holler was teaching there, and Martin van der Ginten, great guitarist, and other guitarists. So then, last minute, somehow I got the idea to try the States. So let me see what or maybe my teacher at the time told me, why don't you apply to this school, New England Conservatory, where I finally ended up. Great. I didn't know anything about it, but it turned out to be a really good school. And, the big school is Berkeley, but they didn't have a graduate program at the time, so that wasn't an option. It's like, okay, New England Conservatory, and the great people teaching there. And somehow I got in touch with Gene Bertoncini, who's a great jazz guitarist. Mostly plays nylon string guitar, and I just sent him my some recordings, and he's a very sweet guy, and he said, oh yeah, I'd love for you to come here and study with me. I'll get you in. So, because I was already too late for the auditions, they was already passed, but he got me in. It's like, I'll make it happen. I have some spots, and you can study with me. And then Gene was my main teacher there, and I really got into arranging standards for the guitar, and his beautiful voicings and open string voicings, etc., and counterpoint and 6-string voicings, and inner line movements, all that stuff. He's great. Putting the melody in the bass and playing the chords on top. So Gene, he's still around. He's still here in New York, and occasionally plays. Beautiful guy. And then I took advantage of the great faculty there and did some composition studies with Bob Brookmeyer. Which,
man! How was
I
that
still think it was great. It was really, really, really great. He is like he asks you right away if you are willing to. If you want to seriously study composition with him, big band composition, you would have to stop playing. So he asks you to, you won't have time to, do the other stuff on your guitar. And I couldn't do it. But I know some other people who really took advantage of Brookmeyer being there, and they basically stopped playing for the time that they studied with him. But even though, I did not do that, it was still great, because he's a great improviser too. And we did a lot of playing, and did a lot of his typical exercises. He has this thing with fourths, where he harmonizes everything with fourths. So that's one thing I remember. And then compositionally, the white note exercise, he calls it. Just the C major scale, and just write melodies that you hear, really simple melodies, and that's your starting point. And then you have a motif, and then you develop this motif only in C major and only within one octave. So he would give you this parameters, and then for a year, that's all you did. You would write melodies in C major in one octave and develop them motivically. So I was really strict about that, really great. And leave space. That was a big thing, always, leaving space. And other people, John Abercrombie was there. I studied with him.
Man, how was John like?
He was, he another great guy. The first thing he would tell me is that he doesn't, what he can't he can't teach you anything. He's a very humble person,
Yeah.
very non-teacher kind of teacher. He's like, I don't have any concepts. It was funny. I think he said the most intellectual or the most conceptual he gets about his music is playing triplets in groups of 4. So he was like, okay, I can do that. But ask me about any other polyrhythm, I'm not
that
the
was
guy.
not his thing. Yeah.
But
yeah.
he knows a lot of tunes, and he knows all the Bill Evans changes for all the tunes, and he has great time playing duo with him. He doesn't have that many duo recordings. Maybe with pianists he does, but he has that, on his ECM records, he has this really floaty phrasing, and you maybe don't realize how great his time. He's really grounded, great time, and we've mostly played, and he has great stories about Paul Bley and Kenny Wheeler, etc. So that was great. And another influential one was Bob Moses,
really,
which was really also great to just I think for maybe just 1 or 2 semesters I just immersed myself in his world, and he's kind of a crazy guy, and just mostly it was duo playing and free, and but he has such a great concept of rhythm, which is pretty unique. So his thing is that everything's in time. Even if you play rubato or if you play free, it's not really. He still has a tempo in his head. So that at the time blew my mind. I mean, now I can hear it in a lot of drummers when they play free. Yeah. I can hear a pulse. I can hear rhythms. But he was very had a very strong sense of that. Okay. So it turned out to be great. And then afterwards I went to New York. I didn't even think it would work out. I was ready to go back to Germany, but then you see all these other people that moved to New York, and I was thinking like, all right, what do I have to lose? I can always go back or move somewhere else. And
when did you move to New York?
Then
when did you move?
2002.
Already? Wow.
2002.
Okay. Quite early. Okay.
Yeah, I was in Boston 2000 to 2002, and in 2002 I moved. And
how was that like, the first weeks and months?
Well, in a way, in the beginning, when you first move to New York, you have this energy, right? It's sink or swim, or you got to make something happen. You can't just move there and sit around. So lots of things happen, lots of sessions and lots of things coming out of those sessions, and just going to every gig and talking to everybody, it's not in my nature, but I knew I had to do it. And when I think about that time, I'm still kind of baffled at how much that energy, that things that I don't do anymore, or maybe don't need to do that much anymore, where you just get a number from somebody and then keep bugging them until they play with. I remember once I'm still kind of embarrassed about, I feel bad about it, but like somehow I got Adam Nussbaum's phone number, and so before email, well, there was email, but a lot of people weren't using email, so it was you would still call people up, and I had his number, and I didn't have I didn't have any, like, I really wanted to play with him. So somehow I got the nerve to call him, but didn't realize it was like midnight or something. So he was sleeping already. So I woke him up from his sleep,
Oh,
and I felt so bad. But that was the I was like, oh, I'm really gonna, or like if you want a gig, you just to call every, I think once I called, there was this club in Penang that doesn't exist anymore, and I would call. I called every day. I remember like once it's
wow.
like I got it. I just have to call. I would never do this anymore, but
Sure. Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
kind of energy. It's you kind of sink or swim, you have to. But I would also I was teaching and I was teaching anybody, beginners, and I worked in a music store for a while, and then you sort of, you know, after I think I worked there for like 6 months or so, and then you get more teaching and you get more gigs.
Mm.
But it was great. I was living with five other musicians in a house. We had bass and drums and piano in the basement. I lived with a bass player, so there was and a drummer. So it was great. It's just basically like playing all day long
Mm.
um, in the basement, and yeah, and then I played a lot with the people that on my first album, and
Yeah. How did you hook
Chris
up with those
Cheek I
guys?
played with a lot.
How did you hook up with Donnie and Ben and
Uh,
Ari and
yeah. I think I just talked to them. I just went to gigs and went to their gigs and talked to them. Or maybe Chris Cheek, I got a number from a friend, or maybe a friend set up a session with him. Uh, you know,
oh, sorry. Sorry, man. The internet went out, so are we back?
oh yeah, there you
Sorry,
are.
the internet it just
Okay.
went out. Yeah. Yeah, no, no, just I wanted to ask you, about these guys and across the river. How did that record happen actually? Like when did you decide like, okay, shit, I want to do this record?
Yeah, so I did that demo recording with the same band and sent it to Jordy, and then Jordy was going to put out that recording. It was like, no, 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 no. This is just we just recorded a demo because I'm looking for a label. I thought this is how it works, So he was like, okay, then yeah, we just we didn't we rehearsed a little bit and went into the studio, Michael Borby's studio,
Hmm.
and it was great at the time. I mean, you probably know this too, but for me, this is so far back. I listen to my playing on the record now. I I feel like yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to listen to because I feel like I've progressed since then.
Yeah, it's different, but it's still a great record. I mean,
But
I love the
that's
tunes, man. It's beautiful
normal.
music.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm still very happy with it with the tunes.
Oh shit, that's terrible. Man, okay. Uh, Sorry, man. Sorry.
It's okay, no worries.
It's just like
Yeah,
if this happens two more
yeah,
times,
no,
then I'm gonna lose it. But no, no, it's like I think it's still beautiful music that you wrote, and it's such a nice album, and the band is killing. Those guys are now like all, you know, if you find sidemen stuff by them, it's amazing. So like beautiful to have those guys on your record, so as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, yeah. No, it's I'm happy I did that, and it's kind of started the relationship with Jordy,
Yeah.
and he sometimes we talk on the phone and he asks who are the young guys now, or who are the people on the scene in New York, because he doesn't get to go here much anymore, so he still wants to know what's going on. And no, I'm one of the people who he asked, like, who are the young guys, I mean, back at the
Yeah, that's
time
quite cool.
I was the young guy. So now I feel like, yeah, I'm yeah, one of the older generation. But yeah, it started that relationship with that label, and it's still going.
Yeah,
I'm still happy about it.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, I noticed when I listened to your records, like when you recorded Shelter and the entrance of Dan Weiss, kind of that changed things rhythmically so much, I think, for you and Matt Mitchell, obviously, and even more clear on System One. And you started to explore these polyrhythmic structures and very heavy structures. Like, how did you enter into that world, and how do you write music? When we talk about System One, I was like listening and writing down structures. How do you compose usually?
Yeah, around that time, I'm thinking what triggered it, or if it was a gradual process. So Dan Weiss was definitely an influence. He played a lot around town, still does, but he had this trio with Thomas Morgan and Jacob
Jacob,
Sass,
yeah.
and that was an influence. VJ Iyer was a big influence. Not now he's on ECM, and but he used to. Well, I mean, he had larger band. Rudresh Mahantapa,
Yeah.
another guy, Rez Abazi. So that was the stuff I was listening to, and um, I was just really interested in rhythmic structures. And I'm thinking, I'm probably forgetting some info, but that kind of world. I mean, there's uh, uh, this Belgian band called Akamoon.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
if we
With
know them.
Stefan,
It's not really a jazz band.
yeah,
It's
on drums. Yeah, I know.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Mishuga, um, um, that was actually yeah. I started listening to them in the '90s already, and I was just like, what is this? And nobody. I think we were like two people or so who were into
Yeah,
that. I knew one other person who was into Meshuggah, and now it's like everybody's into Meshuggah, and they're a big influence on the jazz scene as
yeah,
well. And you have bands like you have Tigra and Hamasyan, and other bands that come out of that. Um, so that was an influence, and I just kind of like stopped everything else and just worked on rhythms.
mm,
So I felt like my harmonic language was more progressed further than my rhythmic language, and um, somehow coming up with melodies was also never a problem for me. I
yeah,
think how I was brought up musically with my parents were professional musicians, but always singing. There was they worked in the church, so there was always singing. We always sang at home. We were five kids, so we would sing Bach chorales. We would sing everything. We'd sing Beatles tunes when I was a
mm,
kid, and I would make up my own little tunes. And so melody was also something I grew up with. But rhythm, I feel like I really wanted to immerse myself in that. Stopped everything else. Really worked on rhythm, and yeah, sought out people who were like-minded. Like Dan Weiss is definitely a big influence, and kind of on the at the top of the list
yeah,
here.
sure.
Very devoted to the study of rhythm. And not just polyrhythms. I mean, it's really just also um, yeah, time in general. Working with the metronome, setting the metronome on every 8 bars, stuff like that. I would get together with people and practice that, and I actually still do it every week. We get together with a group of people, and for 3 hours we work on a rhythmic
Well, that's fantastic.
puzzle, or something. Somebody has an idea, and we just immerse ourselves in that. But also, I mean, what we do is take bebop heads and displace them by
Yeah.
a beat or 2 beats or something, stuff like that. So it's not all polyrhythms, so that also strengthens the rhythmic vocabulary, I feel like, for me. So stuff like that, I just got really into it, and I like the meditative, like trance-like element of it. So there's some tunes on System One, like Kaonashi, where you have these 2 rhythmic layers, and they create something really, uh, yeah, for lack of a better word, spiritual, or something that
Mm-hmm.
speaks to me on a deeper level. Maybe, my parents coming from the church community, something that I'm looking for, that's somehow connects me to, yeah, a deeper level of existence. Or I don't know if this makes sense,
No,
but
no, but yeah, sure.
rhythm for me does that right now, because it involves the body as well as the mind. So that's how I got into it, and I'm still into it, and I'm always looking for new ways to express. Yeah, I was saying, not to just make it an intellectual exercise, but also connect it to the body. And uh,
Yeah.
another guitarist who's great at that, and is Miles
Miles,
Okazaki. I'm
sure.
sure
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
familiar
sure.
with him too. So he had this recording. I think it might have been his first uh, recording under his own name. I think it was called Mirror.
Yeah, yeah.
So he had
That's crazy. Yeah.
these similar rhythmic cycles, but the melodies were very diatonic for the most part, and kind of simple in a way. But the rhythms were not immediately, yeah, were more uncommon. So I was very attracted to that as well. So I felt that's my place
Yeah.
as well. So
Beautiful. Ah, so nice to hear that. Yeah, I love listening to the last one. I mean, I love Miles, and I was quite happy to see you entering also that world, because and the band is killing. Matt Mitchell. He's like the craziest dude probably out there regarding rhythm.
yeah, he has really made this unique place for him, where you don't he can play the bass part as well, so you
I know.
find all
Yeah.
these groups in New York now that don't have a bass, and Matt Mitchell is playing 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 everything basically. He's like the um and he, I mean, I've talked to him a lot, but he said that's his thing. That's what he practiced his whole
Yeah.
life, and everybody asks him, how can you do it, and it's just, that's my thing. I practice that. So you don't even, yeah, I mean, it's really, it's really unique. And on top of that, he plays great melodies. I
Oh,
mean,
sure. Oh, yeah.
I always love it if somebody also has this sense of lyricism,
Yeah.
and melody and so that's like, yeah, that's a really beautiful combination.
Mhm.
He just released a completely improvised double CD, and it's just,
Oh, I
yeah,
have to check it out. Okay.
it's amazing. It's really great. It's really great stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah, monster. Yeah, I hope you'll
quite
still
unbelievable.
you'll still do another quartet one with that group.
Yeah. No,
That would be cool. Yeah.
that's that's definitely, I have also a lot of music for that group,
Quartet, yeah.
and I've since simplified the structures. I mean, the same rhythmic structures, but I used to maybe a little bit more on the first one with that band Shelter,
Mm-hmm.
where I had these long charts. It's like I I wanted to kind of go as far as I could with structure, but first of all, I mean, it gets hard to really keep track of the structure and then also to memorize a tune. So now I'm focusing more on just one or two ideas per tune,
Yeah.
and a little more cyclical and meditative. So I have a bunch of music for that band as well, and hopefully
Beautiful.
get to record it soon.
Beautiful, man. Fantastic. Uh, Sebastian, not to take too much of your time, and considering the internet situation, I wanted to ask you also about your connection with Darcy James. And I listened today to the last one, and there's like this one monster solo you play on that tune, Pharaoh. What is it called? Pharaoh Magnetic, I think. And what's your story with Darcy? And I know you started already like on Brooklyn, Babylon. How did you guys meet and playing in that group? How is that experience for you?
We met at NEC, New
Oh,
England
awesome.
Conservatory.
Okay.
We're pretty much about the same age. Maybe he's a year or two younger than me. I don't know, or maybe a year younger. And we were there exactly at the same time. And he was one of those students of Bob Brookmeyer's who gave up playing. He was a
Thought so,
pianist. He
yeah.
was a fairly straight ahead jazz pianist. And um, Bob asked him, as he usually does with students, so what are you? Are you a composer or are you a player? And Darcy thought about it maybe for a day. He was like, okay, no more piano. And he went full on into
Mm,
arranging and composing, and hasn't stopped, and has become one of the main
yeah.
composers on the big band scene today. So yeah, we started playing his compositions in the big band there, and then we moved to New York around the same time, and he started something here in New York, and asked me to do it. And for a while, quite a while, it was just readings. We would just get together and
Mm,
read music, and we were all really into it. And then he got some gigs in the beginning at the Bowery Poetry Club. It's called. We paid a lot for basically no money, and then he slowly. So we have 4 albums now, and they've been nominated for Grammys. He's gotten tours since then
yeah.
in Canada and Europe and other places, South America. And he's very loyal to the people who stuck with him in the beginning, who did all those readings for free, and those, like these little gigs in the beginning. So it's great. He's really has a core of musicians that know his music well,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm happy and honored to be one of them. But I've known him for a long time. I've known his music for.
Okay.
So I was saying,
Yeah.
yeah, I've known him for. So next year is actually the 20th anniversary of that band, Secret
Wow,
Society,
man. Okay.
which is just crazy to me. But yeah, things are starting to happen again for that band. So that album came out last year, the new Secret Society album, and we're going to Europe this year, and then next year he's playing some things for that anniversary.
Fantastic.
And it's it's great to be in that scene. Through that band, I also play in a lot of other big bands in New York. So I've kind of like become the guitarist who can read, or one of them. I mean, there are many in New York that can read, but still, if you have that reputation, you tend to, word gets around, and I play a lot of big band, and one of the things I've been thinking about is writing a little bit about that experience, or I've been doing a little writing for a blog here in New York, the New York Jazz Workshop which I teach. So I'm working on an article about that, modern big bands in the role of guitar in modern big bands. With the focus in New York, because I feel like Darcy started like this type of writing for guitar that's really efficient. You're not just doubling a melody line like that was the kind of the standard before. When you play guitar in a big band, you double a horn line, but in Darcy's music, it's you have that too sometimes, but often you're adding something actually to the music, and often it comes from the rock world, or maybe the indie rock influences in that, and minimal music. Sometimes you have this pattern that just keeps going, and you're faced with these issues. That I remember this one tune where I was literally chunking on power chords for 2.5 minutes, and it was really fast, and I was going, down and up, down, up, down, up, and Darcy said, "No,
You were doing the James down picking, kind of."
Yeah. I know. Yeah, so I had to get into that because I just cramped up. Like after
it's heavy.
Like a minute and a half of doing that, I could feel it here, like crunching, right? So I had to practice endurance with downstrokes. It became like, exactly. Like I was thinking of those, like Iron Maiden, and that's a special skill too, and it's not something you necessarily learn in in jazz program. So he created this whole new world for the guitar in big bands.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, beautiful, man. Are you said you might come to Europe with Darcy. What are your plans otherwise for the upcoming months? I mean, any plans with your own groups in Europe, or?
We're so with Darcy, we're playing in we're doing some stuff in July. June, we're going to Canada. I often play in Europe. Well, it's mostly Germany. In the fall or the winter, I have a group with musicians from there. Well, actually, there's one sax player, Tobias Meinhardt. He lives in New York. But he's from Germany. He goes to Germany. So we've been doing, it's kind of like a tradition. We play for a week in Germany, in southern Germany, and Frankfurt, Jazz Keller, and around Munich. So I haven't been able to bring the whole group from the last album to Germany. I mean, it's kind of a daunting endeavor.
It's heavy.
As much as I want to do it, it's just the logistics of it are have been daunting, and um, I we had a kid 2.5 years ago, so
Yeah, yeah.
there was COVID, and so I don't have any plans with that in Europe. But yeah, I always play local gigs. I still go back once or twice a year, and sometimes when we do some touring with Darcy, I play some local gigs in
Mm.
Europe. And but yeah, yeah. I mean, it's still a dream to bring that band
Yeah,
over, but it's
would be
just
amazing. Yeah.
you know, in a way, I mean, it's very rewarding, but as a sideman, it's just so nice. Everything's planned out.
I
Somebody else
know.
books
Yeah,
the hotels. You actually get paid, and uh, it's like it's also pretty nice. So
oh,
for
and the
sure.
music is fantastic, the groups you play in. So yeah, anyway, but cool.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I'm lucky in that, and it's still. Yeah, still amazed sometimes that it's I've been able to carve out a niche for myself here in New York, and
Yeah,
like I said, I wasn't in the beginning planning on it or didn't think it would be possible, but if you have to be persistent. It's just like it's a long haul,
yeah,
for everybody. It's like I see it all the time. You have all the energy in the beginning, and then it becomes about the long haul and the persistence,
exactly.
because
Yeah,
there will always be a point where you have to make a decision. Do I keep putting up with this lifestyle, or yeah, do I do some or move somewhere else?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's very rewarding.
It is. Yeah, but man, yeah, Sebastian, I'm really looking forward to the new albums. I mean, to the trio one when it's gonna be recorded and everything. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I have a lot of
keep
plans
keep me
for.
posted.
Yeah. Um, One thing I forgot to mention, that I
Hmm.
also really got involved in Indian music,
Really?
and
Oh,
started getting serious about it. I've always wanted to do it, uh, like for yeah, I mean forever. I've been listening to Indian music and studying the rhythms. So that's also a big influence. So when you were asking about rhythms
mm,
earlier, the Carnatic rhythms and also the different cycles, rhythmic cycles. So
yeah.
I started getting serious about sitar about 3 years ago,
Oh,
and
really? Oh, wow.
uh,
Okay.
and, yeah, yeah, yeah. There it is.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
So it's a humbling thing, because I don't really see myself seriously performing on that. I mean, who knows? I mean, but it's really a great learning process for everything. If you get serious about learning something new, it tends to inform the things I already know,
Yeah,
and I go back to things and I see things on the guitar in a different way. Um,
definitely.
I mean, apart from all the new rhythmic aspects you learn, and new scales for composition. So on the last two albums, you also find quite a few tunes that are inspired by the talas, the rhythmic
Yeah.
cycles, the Indian rhythmic cycles, or ragas. So that's also a big thing. Tabla too. I studied tabla a little bit. It's just
Mm,
um, it's there's a community here in New York. I mean, this is community for everything here, but community of even like jazz musicians who are serious about it. Dan Weiss
Yeah, sure.
is also has been studying tabla for a long time, and yeah, so I found a guru in Brooklyn. I go there, every couple of weeks, and get my ass kicked, and then just like it's so inspiring. It's like
Sure, yeah.
It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and then the pandemic came, and I was like, okay, this is a sign. I got it. This is the time to get serious
Yeah.
about the sitar. And yeah, so you will definitely hear more of that in my influence. I mean, not not so much me playing the sitar. I mean, there's a great, now that as a little side note, a great new project of Reza Bazi's with the sitar player. I don't know if you
Really?
checked that out.
No, I mean, I
But
follow Res, and we've been friends for some time, but I didn't know. I'll check it out.
yeah, it's the sitarist is called, his name is Josh Feinberg. I think he's a West Coast guy, but it's a beautiful record. I really like how they blend the guitar,
Have to check it out.
jazz world, and the sitar.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's also very rewarding.
Yeah, beautiful. Man, yeah. Otherwise, if you're going to be in Europe, drop me a line. Let me know. I live like half an hour south of Graz in Austria, so hope to catch you somewhere.
Yeah. In Slovenia, is that right?
Yeah, I'm in Slovenia, so
Where do you live?
in Marburg.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever been here, but
Marburg. I've never been. I've did some touring in Slovakia.
oh yeah, Bratislava
With
probably.
this drummer Martin Bratislava. Yeah, this drummer Martin Valihora.
Oh yeah.
We had a trio, and we're playing there. But Igor Lumpert, is he from Slovenia?
Yeah, Igor
He's
is
a
Slovenian. Yeah,
sax player.
exactly. Yeah, he's in
Yeah,
Europe.
he's Slovenian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
of us.
He's definitely around up. We play sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic, man. Super.
Cool. Yeah, I will let you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll definitely plan on doing stuff again
Yeah,
this year and every year a little bit, around
fantastic.
Germany.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool, man.
But yeah,
Thanks for sharing some of these thoughts, Sebastian. Really appreciate it. Nice to hear you talk about it. It's kind of all joins together now for me, for the music. So, and you.
thank you.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah, great. Keep it going. It's great stuff that you do. I mean, this is really you created something unique. You have all these
Yeah, it's a big one now,
musicians
man. It's crazy. It's approaching 500, so
all in one spot.
it's a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Whew.
so many.
When did you start? When was the first one?
Oh shit! I think like 4 years ago, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's quite. But it's just I just go through my record
Wow, that's a
collection, and it's
lot.
like,
Yeah.
damn, yeah, okay, and it just keeps on going. It's like the amount of players out there and composers, it's just immense, and it's amazing. Yeah, so it's a nice archive. I'm happy. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but cool.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I've listened to a couple. It's always great.
Yeah, cool. Man, I'll leave you a nice. What is today? Saturday, and I slowly go to bed. So here it's 10:30. So, but thanks again for
Oh
taking the
yeah.
time,
Right.
Sebastian.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pleasure. My
Yeah,
pleasure.
and I'll send you a link when this is out and everything. So.
Dr. Jazz.